So if this is your first time joining us for an AMA, this is a session that we like to do monthly just to give an opportunity really for you to ask your questions. So we have some submitted questions. I'll just move over to our agenda here so you can see that. We will start by going over a feature review, and then I'll go over a pro tip, and then we'll go over submitted questions. And if I haven't had a chance to meet you yet, my name's Ashley Jones, and I'm one of the client success team members here at Parting Pro. I'm also a funeral director and was in the funeral home for about 12 years at a high volume, low cost cremation business before joining Parting Pro. So I do have some good funeral home experience under my belt. And we also used Parting Pro at the funeral home where I was at. So hopefully I can be an asset to you, and I'm happy to assist you in anything that you need here. So I'm going to start going over our feature review. And this month, I guess it was about maybe 2 weeks ago, we came out with a new flow for the invoice generation. So previously when a customer would go through your online checkout, so they've gone through your store, they've submitted their information, what you would see is you would get this online checkout section and you would have to click the generate invoice button, which would then generate an invoice for that customer, which you could then edit. So instead of having to generate an invoice for each online checkout, they're auto-generated now. So instead of having this generate invoice button, you now just have the invoice itself, and it's giving you an alert that it's paid or unpaid, depending on how they've done it. Well, it would be unpaid if you had to generate it. So it would be an unpaid invoice. And then you can still edit it just as you did before by using the little 3 dots here and clicking edit. And then you've got a new little icon here. So if it's a shopping bag, that means that invoice was generated based on the online checkout. So that is the newest feature that we've had updated this month. So hopefully that'll just take a little work off your plate. Even though it's simple, you don't need to generate those invoices, and they're just auto done for you as well. Any questions on that or any feedback if you've already utilized that feature? Excuse me, get some water. Okay. And then let me go back here. So for our pro tip, I wanted to show you everybody how to manage your cases page and something that might be helpful for you. So let me navigate over to my my dashboard here for a moment. Okay, can everybody see my dashboard?
Yes, Ashley.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. So one thing I wanted to just make sure everybody knew about was how you could actually manage your layout here of your cases. So there's quite a few fields that you have to scroll over to see, including your informant, funeral director, case manager, and stage. So you can actually control this layout by managing the columns. So you've got a manage column buttons right here, which will allow you to decide where you want the columns and actually which ones you want to show. So when I was in the funeral home, what I was particularly interested in whose case this was. So I like to have my funeral director field up at the beginning. Let me get that up there. So to move things around, you just click on the little drag option and just pull it to where you want it. So in this case, I like to have the funeral director come first. I am going to remove a couple things too. So stage isn't something that I want to show on mine as an example. And then let's take off a couple of things too. So let's say maybe we don't need the location to show. So I'm going to save that and just show you what that looks like. So now that we've done that, we've got the funeral director first, and then the date of the case, case ID, case type, decedent. And then some of those fields that I didn't want there have fallen off too. So actually, I'm going to get rid of my next task option too and save that. And so this is a view that I like because I can kind of see everything in one screen without having to scroll. Even though my case manager's name is kind of hanging out here, I can see it. But then I see how far we are on our tasks. I see who's in charge of the case. And this is just my preferred view for working with the cases. And the nice thing about managing your columns this way is they will stay this way for you. So once you sign out and sign back in, this is the layout that will be saved for you. But you can always make edits and change things as you go. So if you decide you wanted that location back in, or potentially maybe you use your case manager as the person who's really in charge of that case, and you wanted to have the case manager next to your funeral director name, you can go ahead and make those adjustments too. So now you've got funeral director, case manager, and then your case information so that you can see the information that you're most interested in on the page. So just feel free and rearrange that information to do whatever is going to be easiest for you. Any questions on that? I'm going to kind of navigate back to our presentation here. Okay. So we always ask for our AMAs if anybody has any questions they want answered, to go ahead and submit their questions. So we've got some submitted questions here that we'll get into. And then again, feel free and put your questions in the chat and we'll make sure and get to those too. Let me just move my pictures around here. Okay, so the first question here was, can it be added wherein there is an additional $100 transfer or removal fee for a home residence? So the answer is yes, we can customize any fees associated with a specific location. We can also customize the wording. So for this situation where they're always going to have an additional $100 to do a removal at a residence, we can set this up so whenever residence is chosen, there's an automatic $100 fee that's going to apply to that case, and the family will see that as a required fee in the checkout. And then the other thing that we can do here is just update any wording that you'd like. So morgue is a popular one that I see people customize because it's not necessarily universal. Some areas of the country use morgue, but some use coroner, some use medical examiner. So if morgue is not the right word, which is kind of our default, if you wanted that change to coroner or medical examiner, we could also do that. We can also add additional locations or remove locations if they don't apply for you. So yes, absolutely, we can do that. Okay, so our next question is, I've got a case that is duplicated in error. Is it possible to merge them? So the answer to this is kind of. Yes, it is. It's not, there's not an easy way to do it where you can do it yourself, or you can kind of click on two cases and merge them. Our support team can do this if needed. So you can send them those cases and let them know that they're duplicated, or if you've got maybe forms in one and vitals in another and just need to combine things, it can be done if need be. And then next question is, how do I edit an invoice? So let me go ahead and go back into my dashboard here to get into that question. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go into an invoice. Let me find one here. We'll just do this one. So I'm just going to select a case here and then walk you through the steps on editing an invoice. So I'm going to go into my payments tab where my invoices are going to be. And all we need to do to edit an invoice is really just click on the invoice. So you can click on the invoice link here. You got the invoice link here or here. So no matter where you click on it, you really just want to get into the invoice. And then once you're in the invoice, you've got a little 3-dot menu here where you can choose edit invoice. And then from here, you can make any corrections or additions that you need to. So your trash can is going to delete line items for you. You can update quantities. So if you just need to change quantities on items, you can do that here. You can also change prices. Really anything that's underlined, you can change. You can also add line items here. So if you click add line item, once you click in the description, this is going to pull up your catalog for you where you can either start typing things to add, and it's going to pull up those items for you, which will automatically add in the price and your sales tax. You can adjust them still. So if they wanted two of those keepsakes, you can add that and just make adjustments there until you're ready. And then once you hit next, it will allow you to go ahead and update that balance. So if it's a invoice that's already been sent or at least generated, you can go ahead and update the balance, which is going to reflect that new amount. And then from here, you can either resend the invoice or just save and close. But that's how you would go ahead and edit an invoice, and you can edit as many times as you need. So if again, there's a change and it's been unpaid, you just can go right back into edit invoice from here, or clicking into the invoice and clicking edit, and that will let you do that. Okay. Let me get back to our next questions here. Okay, so the next question is in the dashboard too. So I'm going to actually stay in the dashboard here. But it is asking, so the question says, under internal account details on the case manager, it looks like our director is set for the funeral director drop-down section and none of the other directors are listed to change it. So let me come back here and show you what she's talking about here. So we've got a case manager field, and then we've got a funeral director field. So it sounds like the question is saying there's only one funeral director listed in their drop down, and they want to be able to have that changed. So, excuse me. So that change would take place over in the team settings. And anybody that is listed as an administrator can make changes to the team settings. So because I'm listed as administrator, and if I wanted to edit that and I wanted to say, okay, Monica is a funeral director, I'm going to click on the three little dots and just choose edit. And then I can make her a funeral director and enter in the license number if I know that. I could also make anybody else an administrator. So all I would do is update that. My funeral director now says yes. And then when I go back into my cases, I should see those two names now in that funeral director dropdown. So if you're running into this situation, what you need to do is, if you're not an administrator in the dashboard, you can still navigate over to the team page and it will show you who is an administrator, because everybody can see this. You'll just want to ask whoever's the administrator in your dashboard to go ahead and make those changes. So make sure that everybody that is a funeral director is noted as a funeral director, and has the appropriate settings there. So yes, I definitely can do that one. Let's come back over to the next question here. So next question is there a way for me to manually input a client's information to generate a price that I can send to them? The client is elderly and not comfortable using a computer. So yes, you can go ahead and manually enter a case and generate an invoice. So this is specifically asking to generate a price. So what we would do in that situation is just manually enter the case by creating a new case inside the dashboard. So a customer does not have to go through your online store for you to go ahead and create a case. What I would do in this situation is just come into your case details and enter the information you have. So I'll just enter some quick information here. So I would just enter in whatever information you have. And if it's really just to create a, quote or invoice, there's not a lot of information that you have to enter. Actually, there's nothing required, but I would at least enter a name. And then basically you can come in here and click new invoice and then go ahead and just create an invoice. So if you utilize invoice templates, and for example, you wanted to do one for a direct cremation, you could choose your invoice template here and that's going to populate for you. And then you can still edit things. So, you know, if this invoice needed to be for 3 death certificates, you can just add anything that you need to here. I'll just add a couple things here for an example. And then it sounds like you don't want to like email this to this customer, you can just click back to case. And that will allow you to go ahead and see that invoice. And what we probably want to do is, let's see. I was just going to see, you probably want it printed. So maybe what you could do in this case is you could actually send it to yourself, and then you'd have an email copy of it. And then you would be able to either print that out or get that over to the family. But hang on just a second as I'm saying this, I'm thinking maybe there's a better way. Yes. So what I would do would just click download statement of funeral goods and services. And then that will give you the downloaded statement of funeral goods and services, which is going to show everything on your invoice. And then if they wanted to go ahead and proceed with that, then you've already got the information. Let me pull that over here. There we go. So then you've got that statement of funeral goods and services for that case, and it's going to include all of those invoice items and give you your total and then places for signatures too. So that's probably what I would do in that case. And then if you're physically delivering it or you're putting in the mail, you can still go ahead and have that printed copy, and then you've got an invoice in the record that's saved for that case. Okay, well, let's see. So we had a couple of questions come in that were dealing with either receipts or statement of funeral goods and services. So we'll go over those here next. So I have a question about an arrangement I made in home without having to re-enter a statement of funeral goods and services. How do I get a signed contract without payment? The family will be paying via insurance. So I would actually do exactly, I guess, what I just showed. That would work for this example too. So you would create that invoice, save it. You don't have to send it to the family, but once you've saved it, you have the option to download that statement of funeral goods and services. Now this would work. Whoops, let me see. So this is going to work to get a wet signature from the family. The electronic signature for the statement of funeral goods and services is going to be tied to when they make a payment. But this is a way that you could get around that for now. So generate your invoice, download that statement and get a signature. And maybe that does work if it was an in-home arrangement as well. So that's probably the way I would handle that. And then kind of next question here. Can I have a statement of funeral goods and services form sent to me for a digital receipt for a specific case? So yes, you can have the statement of funeral goods and services sent, but again, that's going to happen along with the payment. So you can download that statement of funeral goods and services. When the family makes a payment in the online checkout, there is going to be a statement generated automatically that they'll sign and they'll get a copy of as well as a receipt. And then let me just record a payment on this, and then I'll show you as well that you can record, or excuse me, go ahead and print a receipt. Sometimes the receipt is what is needed. So let me show you what the receipt looks like versus the statement of funeral goods and services. So I need to go ahead and put in a person on this really quickly. So let me do that. Okay. So I'm going to save and close that, and then that should allow me to go ahead and record an invoice payment now that I've got a payor. So I've got my invoice, I've got my recipient here. I'm going to go ahead and record that payment. And then once I'm recording the payment, I have that option to send a request for an electronic signature. So that's going to be the signature on the statement of funeral goods and services. And then there's also the option to send a receipt. So if you've done this already, or even if the family has done an online checkout, I'll show you how to go ahead and pull up that statement again. So we're going to use this example now as a paid case. So if you want to regenerate either a statement of funeral goods and services or a receipt, you can do that from either this screen where you'd be able to choose print receipt. And this is going to show really just the payment information for that case. So let me pull up a receipt and show you kind of the differences here. So I find that some people prefer the shortened receipt to print out, but you've got still all of the invoice items. So you've got the package, all the line items that you invoiced for, and then you've got the total paid and any amount remaining, and then it's going to tell you as well who paid that and how. So my informant's name and my little test case is test case, and they paid by credit card. So that is how you can generate a receipt at any point on a paid case, is you just go into that invoice and ask it to generate the receipt versus the statement of funeral goods and services, which is going to be your contract with the signatures. So those would be the differences in those. And then you can get both of them either here by clicking print receipt or download statement of funeral goods and services. And this is inside the invoice. And then if you're back on your back inside the case and on your payments tab, you can do both of those items as well, right in your drop down here. So, or excuse me, your little 3-dot menu, print receipt or download statement of funeral goods and services. And if your statement of funeral goods and services has not been signed by the family yet, you'll see this option to resend request for signature as well. So if you've got any more invoicing or statement of funeral goods and services questions, definitely let me know. Okay, see, Darlene's got a question here. So when the funeral home sees that the wrong person has signed required documents, what method is in place for papers to be re-signed for the correct person? So good question, Darlene. So if the wrong person has signed forms, basically you just need to regenerate those forms. So let me go to a case that actually has some case information, because this will be a better example. So let me go back to cases here. Let's see, who do I have? Let me try to see if I'm just going to find a case that has some more case details than just the basics here. Okay. So this is a better example because I have some more case details. So I'm going to click over to my forms tab, and probably what happens in a situation like this is you've got your form set up to auto send to the family. So maybe they go through the online checkout, forms were automatically sent to the person who went through the online checkout, but it turns out that maybe they're not your authorizing agent. So we'll use this as an example. So maybe that's what happened in this case. And I've got this cremation authorization signed by Martin, and he's not the person that needed to sign it. So it's already completed. And then we find out actually there's a different person that needs to sign this. So all I need to do in that case is go ahead and click send or print. And then you would choose the person that does need to sign this. So if they're already a contact, you can go ahead and choose that contact. If it's a new person and they're not in your contact list yet, you can go ahead and just enter that person's name and email address. And then once you click next, you'll be able to resend that same form. So this is the form that I've already got. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. Even though my first person signed it, I'm just going to re-sign it. But the reason I wanted to show you this way is because it's still going to pull in all of that information for the second person too. So no matter how many of these forms you need to send, you shouldn't need to retype a whole lot of information. So it should be a fairly simple transfer of information. So they're still going to see those fields. If you wanted to pre-fill in any of those, you could. So because this person wasn't in my system, I don't have their relationship, but you could go ahead and just quickly fill that in. And then as I scroll through, really, I just have my selections and signatures that this person needs to do, as well as their address. So I can go ahead and close that and then go ahead and send it. And then what you'll see, I'll go ahead and send. And then what you'll see here now is that I do have that first cremation authorization that was signed by Martin and it's completed, but then I see that I've also got this second one, same form, sent to Ashley, and then it's in progress. And then you'll have that digital forms history. Okay, so then Darlene also says, we understand about regenerating. Our question is, how do they go into Parting Pro and do it themselves? You can see the problem here is we want to simply call them and instruct them to go right back there and do it without us sending anything. Okay. So if a family's already gone through the online checkout, they can't go back through the online checkout for the exact same case. You will have to manually regenerate the forms. If they went back through the online checkout again, so in that case, maybe we've got, this case, we'll use an example. Maybe the brother has gone through, done the checkout. If the sister is the right person and she goes through, you're going to have a duplicate case for her. And if that first family paid, then you're going to end up with that family also thinking that they need to make a payment, if that makes sense. So we can't have the two online checkouts unless that works for that situation. Maybe the first person went through the store and they didn't make a payment and you don't want any of their selections to be saved and you just want to have this new person do that. That's the way that would need to happen. Does that make sense, Darlene, or am I not on your question? Yeah, it's just, we don't have the possibility right now to have multiple checkouts for the, for one person. So let me go in here and, let me go into a case that has an online checkout. So what we're talking about here is, when somebody goes into the store, goes all the way through the store, makes all the selections, and then gets to the end and it's maybe not the right person. What Darlene is asking is, why can't we have somebody else just go through the store? And that's a valid point. We just don't have that ability right now. But ideally, what we'd want to do is, so when you have this case, you'd want to be able to send somebody else basically this online checkout that's connected to the case. And right now, we just don't have the ability to do that. But I will certainly let our product team know that that's something you would like. We do get that request as well from pre-need families that may be arranged multiple months ago, and you'd like to be able to send them back through the store to, relook at merchandise or see what you're now offering, what maybe has changed. So I'll definitely know, or let our team know that that would be a desired feature for sure. So, yep, I see your last comment too. We think that'd be a good thing to do. Great. Yep. Agreed. So let me get that feedback over to our team as well. Yeah. Perfect. So I'll keep going through questions here, but again, if anybody else has any additional questions, feel free and just put those in the chat. Yeah, Brianna, go ahead with your question. how do you upload new documents? Would that be documents that you need a family to sign, I'm guessing? So Brianna was asking, how do we upload new documents? And okay, yep. So cremation authorization, for example. So if the cremation authorization in your form section over here is outdated or you've made an update, let me just get over to this form section here. So any of the forms that are in here, if you need to add more forms, which I always recommend that everybody have us add as many, whatever forms that you would need for a family to fill out at any point. There's not an automatic way for you to go ahead and upload the forms in here, but what you can do is get them over to our support team and they will be able to get those uploaded, and we have to tag them correctly so that we've got the different fields placed where they need to be, like those signatures and dates. But we're happy to do that. So what I would say is just send over those documents to us. Easiest way to do it is, if you're already in your dashboard, is just open up your chat feature here and then send us a message. And then you can actually just attach documents right here by clicking the little icon there. And then you can attach the documents that you need updated and just let our team know that you need these documents added to your dashboard. And we'll go ahead and get that done for you. So whether it's an update or a new form, just go ahead and send those over. And again, I just send whatever forms you might need at any point so that we've already got them, and then you don't have a delay for that kind of one-off situation where now you need a fingerprint authorization, for example. So I would just send us whatever you've got and we'll get those updated for you. Perfect. Okay. And then Darlene has got another question about the authorizing agent. So yes, let me show you that. So the authorizing agent feature, what that is when a family goes through the online checkout. So I'm just going to set this up really quick and click through this online checkout. This is basically a way for us in the online checkout to have the person that's arranging verify if they are the authorizing agent or if there's somebody else. So this could help in that situation, even your previous question, Darlene, about what if the forms were sent to the wrong person. So let me show you this really quick. Just going to enter in some test information here. Okay, I'm just trying to get to the very last screen because that's where this question is asked. So I'm just getting through my additional service questions really quick here. Okay, so the authorizing agent is on your very last screen here. When for the at need, it's going to ask, are you the authorizing agent? So the person who just went through your online checkout is getting this question, right? Are you the authorizing agent? If they need an explanation for that, how do I know if I'm the authorizing agent? This can be customized. So we could take whatever text that you want. So this one is a version of that state law. So it just says in Georgia, when someone passes away, their family has the authority to decide what happens. And then it gives them the kind of list, right, of the order of authorizing agents so that they can have some information to understand if they are the authorizing agent, as this is a new term to many people. And then this also actually has a link out to the law. So if they wanted to open up that link, they can. This can be fully customized. So this can be as simple as you would like it. I would recommend keeping it simple just because it's easier to follow. But you can tell us what this should say, basically. And then the family can say yes. If they select yes, that's really all that happens. If they select no, then they'll be able to tell you who that authorizing agent is, right? So in that previous situation that you asked about, Darlene, if the wrong person received those forms, well, you would at least know right after this family submits this information that there is a different authorizing agent. I'm going to show you what that looks like in the once a family submits that. So now you will notice that none of this information is required. However, they can put it in. The reason it's not required is if they don't have some of this information, we don't want you to not get this online checkout. They would go ahead and agree to the other things that you've got. And actually, let me choose, I want to pay later so I can complete this. And then I want to complete this so I can show you what it looks like for you, and that you actually do get an alert. So we're going to hit submit information. Now, if you've got forms set to auto send, those are still going to auto send. It doesn't block anything at this point. And then when I go back into my case, so this is the case that I just did in that dashboard. I'm going to open this up. And then when I come over to my payments tab, I'm going to have an alert in here that looks like this, authorizing agent. So there's just a red alert that says authorizing agent is different from the informant. So that's your automatic notification that, okay, we may have a different payer and a different authorizing agent for this case. So that when you reach out to that family, you already know, looks like in this case, Ashley's the authorizing agent. Do you have a phone number, email address, whatever that is, so that we can go ahead and communicate with her and get her those forms? Does that answer your question? And if that is an optional feature in the dashboard. So if you want to utilize that, you can just let me know, Darlene, you can let me know. We can get that turned on for you. And then if you've got some customized language that you want to explain what that law is in your own state, we can go ahead and get that added as well. Eventually, our hope would be that we can, if somebody puts in the authorizing agent, then, and you do have forms that are going to be auto sent, that we can actually redirect them or have them not send, and that way they can get to the right person. So that's the eventual goal with that too. One step at a time here, but that is the authorizing agent feature. So let me know if you got any further questions on that one. Okay, I'll turn that on, Darlene. I will just need to know what you want it to say, or I can send you why don't I send you an email with what it currently says, and then we can go over making any adjustments needed. The next question is about discounts. So can we add a line on invoice called discounts? So yes, you can. So this says, when we're building or editing an invoice, it would be super helpful if we could add a line, select discount, and then it would allow us to input the dollar amount and tax. So you can absolutely do this. So let me show you this. So I'm going to use this invoice that we just generated, and I'm going to edit this invoice. And so you can manually enter anything as a line item in your invoices. So as an example, if I did want to add a discount, I would click add line item. Now, you can go ahead and type anything that you want here. Let's see, I'm going to say courtesy discount. So if this is a specific type of discount, we can also add this into your catalog. And for that, you would just let us know via the chat that you'd like a discount added into your catalog. And what I mean by that is, if it's in your catalog, it's going to be an item that's already saved here. So if you have a standard, maybe it's a standard pre-need discount. If they pre-planned, you're going to do a discount. Just came up off the top of my head, not a great example, but you can go ahead and we'll add that in here. But if it's not in your catalog, you can still do it. So for example, if you've got a one-off situation, you want to do courtesy discount. Maybe I am going to discount my package. I'm just going to select what I'm discounting here. and then I want to do maybe a $75 discount, let's say. So I'm going to do minus 75, and then you can do whatever you need to do for the tax there. So if you've got a tax rate that needs to be entered, you can add in that tax rate. And then it's going to go ahead and deduct that $75 for you. So yes, absolutely, you can do that. And then once you add any discounts in, it would show up on your invoice by whatever you named it. So yes, I see this sometimes, if you're doing a specific honorarium and you need to add just things that maybe aren't in your normal everyday invoices, you can absolutely manually add anything. And then if it's something that you're going to use repeatedly, that's when I would reach out to our team using the chat here and just have us add in those line items for you so that they're there in your catalog when you are invoicing to pull up. Okay. So this question is about forms, it looks like. So I'm looking for assistance to tweak our options on the send forms printed version. When we go this route, we can have the option for the funeral director to sign. Can we have the option for the funeral director to sign this while sitting with the family in our office? The adjustments were made on the email version, but do not have the ability on this version. Also, the family does not get a signed copy of this after signing. Okay, so this question is in regards to printing versus sending forms. So when you go to send forms, you'll see this option. You've got either to send or to print. Now, you can't have electronic signatures on a printed form. So that question was saying that can the funeral director sign it electronically? Not if you print it. And then you're right, the family does not get a copy afterwards. So if this is an in-office situation, what I would do is I would still, let's see, let me think about this. So if you want to get electronic signatures, but you're in the office and you want the family to maybe sign electronically, but you definitely want your funeral director to sign electronically. We think, yeah, because if you send them electronically, they have to be assigned to the person who's going to sign. So essentially, you'd have to email them to the informant, which that won't work for a digital signature unless they've got their own device, which of course is not why they're in your office. Let me think about this for a minute. So if you're on a computer and you need to send these to Fred, or maybe you've got in arrange or in your arrangement conference office, you're using some kind of device. What you can do is change the email address. So we're going to send them to Fred, and then maybe you're going to email the email address will be your own. You could do it that way. So you'd email them essentially to yourself, but with the family's names. And then when you pull them up in your arrangement conference office using your email, so you're going to pull up your email, click on the link to sign forms, and that's going to be in another tab for you. So you can share that tab with the family and then collect those signatures. That would be the way that you could do it, but you are right. So if you go to print the forms, let me go back one more screen here. The printing is really going to give you the hard copies, but it's not going to allow for any digital signatures of any kind, whether that be the family or the funeral director. But it is still going to pre-fill all of your information. So if you are having a family come in-house and you don't mind them signing with ink and your funeral director then signing in ink, that's what you'd use this print forms for. I like to use it as well for the receipt for cremated remains. So I'll just show this as an example, because if you've got a family, if families are receiving cremated remains at the funeral home, they are going to sign a receipt of cremated remains at some point. So I always like to just have these printed from Parting Pro because it's going to pre-fill everything for me. So if I've got all of this information in my case details, that's going to go ahead and be pre-filled for me. But I'll pretend like we had a date of death and this disc number in here. And then really all I would need to do is type in what we're releasing. So if we've got an ARIA urn and a father's pendant, I'm gonna go ahead and just type whatever I'm releasing to that family. So even if it's a cardboard container or a temporary urn, temporary container, put any of that in there. And then when I finish this and print it, the only thing that's gonna need to be signed is that signature date and date received. And then I'm gonna have my staff signing that they're releasing sign as well. So this is a nice kind of shortcut. But it is going to work only with ink signatures. It's not going to allow for those electronic ones. Then you basically can download the form. You're going to have that, be able to print it. You've got your copy that is ready to go, just like that. And then it will show on your forms page too that you've printed that. So it's just a notification for everybody to be on the same page about maybe that form's already been printed. So I hope that answers that question. Okay, and then I think we've got one other question here. So we have a family where the deceased is at the coroner's office and need them to sign a release form. Is that something that could be added to the dashboard, or is it something that has to be handled outside of Parting Pro? No, we can absolutely add this to the dashboard. So you can send a form to the family at any point. Even before they've gone to your online store. So yes, we would have you just send that form to us. That way it's available to send to that family. We have some funeral homes that they like to have that type of a form actually set up automatically for their at-need families. So when their at-need families go through the store, they automatically get sent that release form. So they're signing it. That doesn't work in all situations, especially if you need to do your removal prior to that family making their arrangement. So you, in that case, you would go ahead and enter that case information just by starting a new case. Start your new case, enter in what information you have about the decedent and the informant, and then basically come into your form section like we just did, choose that form and send it over to your informant, where they can electronically sign that, and then you can get that over to the coroner's office. So yes, I would absolutely just go ahead and send that. And then, yeah, you don't have to take care of it outside of Parting Pro. It can all be in Parting Pro so that that is all in one place for you. So you don't need to use any other system. Absolutely. Let's see. So that was the end of our submitted questions. So you guys have been awesome and already entered some questions, but we do have a few more minutes. So if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to go over those with you. So yeah, we'll give it a minute here if anybody has any other questions. Just checking the chat real quick to see if we've got all the questions that have come in and we got a chance to answer those. Okay. You're always welcome to reach out to us if you have additional questions, and we'll hang on here for another minute or two since we have some time. But if you come up with questions after this, you're always welcome to email us. success@partingpro.com is the best email address. That's going to reach our client success team. Andrea is on vacation this week, but she's usually in these calls too, and she's the other client success consultant on the team. So those questions would go to both of us and we'd be able to respond. We're also happy to provide any additional training or consulting as needed. There hasn't been any other questions come through. So if nobody else has any questions, we'll go ahead and end just a couple minutes early here. And then we'll be sure and send out the recordings so you can reference back to this. But thank you for attending today, and everybody have a good rest of your week. Bye.